Welcome back everyone, I'm Jim from JimShapedCoding and this is the 5th episode. In this one we are going to cover a really important and interesting function. You are going to use it a lot in your future programs, and I'm talking about a function that will wait till you answer something before it moves on to the next line. Okay, so what I described you right now is something you can do in Python. And yes, we got a built-in function that's called input. And the input built-in function is actually a function that will wait till you input something before it moves on. So let's try to do this. And if you call the input and open the parentheses, this is where you can ask your question. Okay, so don't be confused about the value is required between the parentheses. So I can ask here a question like, what is your name? And right after that, I can do something that will be really helpful. So the input waits for your response, right? But I did not save the response anywhere in the Python's memory. So as you already know from episode 3, you can create variables in order the Python to memorize your values and your variables. So you can do something like name equals to what we just wrote a second ago. And now this is perfect because I saved the input from the user in a variable called name. So I can go down to second line and call the variable's value by print it. So if I print the name, this is going to print whatever the user put in the terminal, and you will see that in a second. So if I execute this one, you see the program is going to wait till I put any text here. So if I put something like Jim, this will print me Jim back because I printed a value that is saved in the name variable. Now here's some extra information that would be really helpful. The input function by default will accept a variable type of string. So if you don't do anything special with this line of code, this input function will receive some input from the user and it will accept it by default with the type of strings. But what happens if I want to accept another type of variable like integers? So to solve this with you together, what I want to do now is writing a program that will calculate my birth year. So for sure I will store the year of today, which is 2020, as a variable. So let's delete all this and start writing a new program. So year equals 2020. And now what I want to do now is actually asking a question like, how old are you? So we'll start with input, and as a question we will ask, how old are you? Now, just to mention, after the question mark, it is more nicer to add a spacebar here, so it will not look messy like this here in the terminal. And now let's store it in a variable, so age equals to that input. And right after that, I want to subtract my year with the age. So birth year equals to year minus age. And this way I will get the birth year back. But here's the problem. I know that the age is string by default because this is how the input function works, as I told you a minute ago. So what I can do now is really simple, and I can wrap this with the built-in int function that we learned in the last episode. But here's the little problem with taking this action. What if I want to use the age variable more than once, not just in the birth year? So do I have to convert the age from string to integer in each of lines of code? No, that does not make sense, okay? You don't want to repeat yourself when you put in your code. So what you can do from the beginning, from the very beginning, when you accept the age variable, you can force the user to put an integer already. So what you can do is wrap the input function with the built-in int function, and from here by default the age would be an integer and not a string. Okay, so this is much useful, and now I can delete this line of code from here. As you see, it won't throw me an error. And the reason I can delete that because the age is an integer already, so I can subtract the year with the age. And from now, let's try to print our birth here with texting something like you born in, and try to add this with the birth year. Now, as you already know, we can't add a string with an integer, right? Because this is an integer, because the year and the age are integers. So we already know what to do here, and we can convert this to string. And if I execute my program, let's try to answer how old are you? 24. And this will give me back 1996. Let's put a little space here and try to execute one more time. Now let's put 30, and this will give me the year of the birth. So this is pretty much about the input function. As the last episode, we have a couple of exercises about this one, so you will get familiar with the input function. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. I would see you in the next one.